Welcome, everyone, to the Country Club Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Leo McMahon, and today we're lucky enough to have Graeme Baxter with us, one of the top golf artists in the world, from what I can, after my research.
Uh-huh.
Welcome, Graeme.
Thank you, Leo. Lovely to be here.
Now, you before we got on air, you were telling me about your studio and what you're in right now. Explain it to the public about your studio.
Well, we moved to North Texas about 3 years ago, and we bought a big swathe of land up here. And we built a couple of houses, and one of them is a studio house. The reason we got two houses exactly the same is that if we've ever got friends coming to stay, we can stay in this house and they can have the other house. But this studio house here it's a big area here. I've got a north-facing window, which you have to have for my painting. So the glass is not tinted, so that I have no colors that are reflected on my canvas. In the studio here, I've got all my prints, I've got all my artwork, I've got my stretcher bars, my paint and everything, and I've got my easel here right at the window. So it's absolutely purpose-built for what I need here as an artist, and I've been working here now 2 years. It's fantastic.
Nice. Looks cool. So, what is a normal workday like for you, Graeme? How do you start out in the morning?
Well, interestingly enough, people say, how often do you work in the painting? Well, I work full time, and some people say, you're only doing between 8 and 10 paintings a year. So where's the rest of the year? Well, it takes me a month to do a painting. So,
Wow.
and then I go to a club to present the idea. Then I go back to the club for an unveiling as well. So because I only do 8 to 10 a year, people think I'm not working very hard. But let me tell you, I work here from, if you were to ask me average hours, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But in case of certain paintings, I'm working all weekend, and sometimes I work from 7 till the sun goes down. I tend not to work at night, even although I've got a special light above me. It's called a north light, and the color is perfect on the paintings, but it's not quite 100%. I need 100%. So night I can only sort of draw position with my paintbrush. I can't really do the color properly, because I look at it the next day and I go, oh my gosh, that's too blue, or it's too yellow, or it's too whatever. So I would say I work from 5 days a week, 9 to 5, like a normal job. But these hours are spread out in different ways.
Right. So the painting behind you were telling me that's the Austin Country Club. How long will that take you to from start to finish? How many
Well,
days or months?
that's precisely a month, and that's a little bit. I'm not showing the painting; it's stuck away in the background because it doesn't get unveiled until the 17th of January. So you
Right.
can see a little bit of it, but that's uh, that's going to take me a little over a month because a lot of detail. It's Austin Country Club is on Lake Austin and the Colorado River, and there's the big Pennybacker Bridge. And the hole I'm doing is a famous hole at the club. So there's a lot of detail in this one. So that painting is going to take me easily a month, and the
Wow.
unveiling on that one is middle of January. So it's pretty exciting.
Now that painting, how did you come about selecting that scene, as opposed to another hole or another
All
location?
right. Well, that was a tricky one because there were so many beautiful views on that golf course. When I go out to a golf club to do photographs or painting, I'll spend 3 days, morning and evening, photographing. Because the morning and the evening you can get the shapes and the undulations and the shadows, and the color is better color. Whenever you photograph at midday, it's not so good because it's sun so high you don't really get the shapes. So I get out there for 3 days. I photograph the course. I maybe do it in the region of 1,200 photographs. I take a ladder on the back of the
Wow.
golf cart and stand at the top of the ladder, get a slightly better perspective. Never use zoom photography. That's just not zoom, drone. I never do drone photography because that's not the perspective a golfer would see, and
Right.
so I just do it from the ladder height. And then I'll present back to the club of the 1,200 photographs. I'll present them back maybe 5 or 6
Wow.
individual shots, just pure
Right.
composition. And in
Right.
the case of Austin Country Club, I think I probably presented back about 10 or 12 because there was a lot of different views. But I would select them in order of my preference for a painting. And I had two that were very much my favorites, and this one was one of the two. And the
Okay.
club, the president, the general manager, and the course superintendent. I would ask the course superintendent at any club I go to, when is the best time of year to photograph the course? And they would say, you've got to come end of October because we've got a touch of autumn, the course is immaculate, and that's the best time. So I always take advice from course superintendents because they know
Right.
better than anyone when the best condition of the course
Right. Right. Do you play the course before you select the?
is. Well, I was asked to play 9 holes, but my answer is absolutely not. Um, and the reason being is when I get to a golf course and I'm on my own, I get in the golf cart, I've got the ladder. I'm in my happy place, if you like, and I just love being there and going around and seeing all the nuances of the course, the shape, the design. I love to know the designer in advance. There's a lot of thought goes into doing a painting before I even arrive. Um,
Right.
but when I'm there, I get asked if I want to play golf. Very rarely do I play golf. If I ever play golf, it's between 11 and 3 o'clock because I need the morning and I need the evening.
Right.
So
Right.
I would say 1 in 10, but I always play the golf course afterwards. After the unveiling, I'll get a chance to play the course.
Right.
But yeah, I always get invited to play the course. You know, I've had the
Right.
chance to play Augusta and played Augusta and other famous courses. Yeah.
So this is a basic question for you, but how do you get all the different variations of colors into the painting?
Oh, I'll get a lot of paints. No, no. I'm going to show you my. I'm going to show you my palette.
Okay.
So the answer is no. I don't have a lot of different colors. Um,
Right.
you only need a basic range of colors to make every color you can create. I've got 3 greens, Naples yellow, which is a kind of beigey, and a dark brown, which is called Van Dyke brown. I don't even know the names of the colors. How about that?
Right.
I don't think you need to know the names of the colors if you know what to do with them. I've got a yellow and an orange, and obviously I get a white, which is a titanium white, but that's my palette. And
And you,
when I the greens are difficult because there's so many different shades, and when most amateur artists they get some paint on their brush and then mix it with a little bit of that and paint it on the canvas. Well, that looks surreal. When I mix color, I'll put this back. When I mix a color, I mix that individual color 6 times before I even apply it to the canvas. And so a little bit of this green, a little bit of that green, a little bit white, a little bit of Van Dyke brown, a little bit of Naples yellow, and I mix it till I get this particular color.
right.
And there's another thing I should mention about my paintings. My paintings are never the same color. Some artists work with the same palette in every painting. Doesn't matter whether it's Scotland or Australia or America. It's the same color. Well, I don't. And when I do a photograph, I take a single shot like that. I do this with my iPhone, a single shot for the composition. Then I get my pro camera and then I'll go I turn it on its side and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll print these out, these 8 photographs, and put them all together. And the middle photograph is the actual color of the golf course, the green. You know, so every course is different. Now, professional photographers, they do it a different way. They get a photograph and they take it back, a raw file, and they edit it and change the color. And guess what? That's not the real color.
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
not giving photographers a hard time. I'm just saying that it's important for me that every one of these courses is a record of golf history, is accurate
Right.
to the type
Right.
of grass they use and the color and all that sort of thing. So yeah, so when I do a green, I mix it 6 times and then I apply that green and then I clean my palette, take all the paint off and start again for another
Wow.
color. So
Hence, it takes you a month to do one painting.
yeah, I suppose I never thought about it that way. That's very, very true.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you look forward to painting every day? Or
Yeah.
some days you got to say, "Boy, I don't feel like painting today."
Gosh, yes, I know what you mean there, but no, you're wrong. I don't feel like that ever. And this is the really strange thing. I'm very excited. I'm going to be working on my painting today after our
Beautiful.
Zoom meeting. I'm very excited to get on with doing my painting. I never, unlike most artists who have got to be in the mood to start creating, and for me, I don't have to be that way at all. I've had a cup of coffee, maybe even have a second cup of coffee, but I never have a problem starting a painting and keeping going all day. And people have said to me, you're 60 some, and are you going to retire? I'll never retire because I'm
Right,
recording golf history.
right, right.
And that's a huge thing for me, to think that I'm getting this opportunity to record faithfully without being graphic. I don't use a pencil to draw in the canvas. I don't use a straight edge or a ruler to make any lines. If I do a clubhouse, it's all done by eye, which I think is kind of cool. And when we do an unveiling, we show a video of the painting being painted start to finish. You can see I just draw it in roughly with a paintbrush and then fill it in like that. So it's very, very basic start, and then it comes up, finishes the way my paintings do finish, which
Cool.
is very, very detailed, but not graphic.
So you've painted the major championships, right?
Yeah,
You've painted for the Ryder Cup.
yeah.
I think you're the artist for the PGA Tour. Is that correct too?
I was the artist for the PGA Tour, was the artist for the Open. I was the artist for the Open for 25 years. I did all the WGC events for a number of years at the PGA Tour. I also did the players at the PGA Tour, and also for the PGA Tour did the President's Cups around the world, South Africa, Canada, Royal Melbourne twice, and the ones in the US as well. Also did the PGA Championship and Solheim Cup uh, and Kraft Nabisco, which is the women's #1 major, and uh, and I'm just about to launch onto a new painting uh, for LACC Los Angeles Country Club. I'm doing two paintings, one for their US Open and one for the Walker Cup. So that would be my first US Open painting. So I did everything except US Open and the Masters.
So do they put deadlines on you when they request these paintings?
No, they never do. They never do.
Good,
But
good.
I will then ask them, when would you like to have your unveiling? And they're going to say, we'd like the unveiling on the 17th of March. So I will have the painting done and the original framed and a canvas giclée copy to them at their club a week before that unveiling. And that's how I work, because clubs are thinking when they deal with an artist, is he going to be in the artistic mood to get it done in time? So I
Right.
work it like a business, and I assure the club in writing that they're going to receive that painting on or before. I've just come back from Chicago, as you know, yesterday, and I had an unveiling up there at Park Ridge Country Club, which is a wonderful old course, 1906. Just I hope I don't get that wrong. And they had their unveiling at their big meeting that they have every year, which was wonderful. We had a lot of the members in for the unveiling. We have the president unveil the painting. I'll talk for a few minutes, and then we'll show a short video of the painting being painted start to finish. And they have that on the 11th of December. I have the painting for them the week before at the latest with the giclée and the original. So it's very much, if I get commissioned to do a painting, I'll say, well, I can do it in this sort of period of time. When would you like to do the unveiling? They might say 4 months ahead, and then I work back from that so as I can slot that painting in, because I only do 8 to 12 paintings a year on average. And so I've got to know in advance when I'm going to put that painting into my list of paintings to do.
Now I'm going to ask you a question that every golfer probably wants answered. Does being a golf artist help your golf game?
Oh gosh, no. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. I'm a member of 3 golf clubs. I'm a member of Mission Hills Country Club in Palm Springs, and which I absolutely love that course to play. I'm a member of St Andrews, and I'm a member of Royal Perth, which is the oldest Royal golf club in the world, 1 month older than the R&A, I believe. They don't like that. But I, when I used to live, I used to have a studio on site at Mission Hills up until about 7 years ago, and I had my studio in the clubhouse. So it was artist in residence kind of deal, and I used to drive to
Nice.
work in my golf cart. You know, I had a house in the estate, so not many people drive to work in a golf cart, but I did. And my friends would come by my studio window, which was looking out on the Palmer course at Mission Hills, and they knock at the window. "You coming out to play?" I went, "No." And then they'd come back after 9 holes and they say, "You coming out?" And I went, "Oh, okay, I'll come out for 9." So when I lived in Mission Hills in California, I used to play quite a lot, and I got my handicap going quite well. And literally, since I've left Palm Springs and moved to Texas, which is far more productive for me because I used to play too much golf in Mission Hills.
Right.
Um, I've not really played. You just play once a month at wherever I am, and I always get invited after the unveiling to go and play, and that's what I do. So, but yeah, I love playing golf because people ask me, did the golf come first or the art come first? Well, I believe the art came first because I was an artist when I was, like I've always did drawings and landscape drawings when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, won a Kellogg's Paint a Village competition, won a box of Legos. and and my dad used to play golf. He's a member of Cotter Golf Club in Bishopbriggs in Scotland. And I used to go out and carry his bag for him, which was great fun, just as a 10, 12-year-old. And then he had a practice net in his back garden, and I used to hit balls into that. And one day I missed the net. It went way over the net into the scout clubhouse next door and straight through a caravan window. I get help for that. But gosh, I love my golf. And my first membership was at a golf course called Hilton Park in Scotland. And then I was a member of Glen Eagles for 25 years, which is very famous. And I also was the third member of Loch Lomond, which is a Tom Wise golf course. And I was a member there for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. And then we moved to the United States and I joined Avondale Golf Club. And I was a member there for a few years. Then we moved to Mission Hills and I became a member there. And I kept my memberships at Royal Perth and St Andrews, and unfortunately, my wife says to me, "Are you playing much at Glen Eagles these days?" And we've been over in the US for a number of years. I went, "Well, I haven't actually played for 3 years. Do you think you should maintain your membership?" I went, maybe not." So I had to resign. She was absolutely correct, of course.
So if you had to play your last round of golf,
Oof.
which golf course would you choose?
Goodness gracious. That's the hardest question because I've been thinking about that very question. When I lived in Scotland, it was unquestionably King's or Queen's course at Glen Eagles. Loch Lomond is a wonderful course, but St Andrews, I've been a member there 30 years. I love the place. The history is ridiculous. Old Tom Morris was one of the founders of my club. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know. I think golf is the most fun when you play with your friends. That's for me.
I
I
agree.
used to when I started playing golf. I played on my own, to learn how to play and all the rest at Hilton Park. But playing at Mission Hills was the most fun I had playing with my buddy Roy from. You remember the band Culture Club and Boy George? I suppose you remember that. They were
Right.
a 80s, 90s band. He's the guitar player and songwriter. Well, he's my golf buddy. We play around the world. Wherever he's got a concert, I'll go out and visit him. We'll get a couple of days golf and come back. So and then, yeah. So I I don't know. It's either going to be Mission Hills Palmer course, or it's going to be Glen Eagles Queen's course.
So I'll follow that up with what three people would be in your foursome? I think you just mentioned one of them, but
Oh,
who'd be the other
geez.
two?
Yeah, it would definitely be Roy Hay for sure. He's Culture Club Boy George guy. Um, I don't need any, you know, I don't know. I'd love a game with my dad again. He passed about 6 months ago, and he taught me how to play golf. And Oh my goodness, you'd need to come back to me on that one. This is very important to choose the right
Right,
three.
right, right, right.
So I don't know who my third would be. I mean, I was lucky enough to get a wee game of golf with Arnold Palmer at Royal Troon.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, nice,
And we
nice.
had a competition. It was a Rolex golf day, and our team were awful when Arnold Palmer joined us. We were so bad. It was embarrassing. I was okay, but the other guys who were better than me, they were hitting the ball along the ground, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then, as soon as Arnold Palmer left us after we played the postage stamp together, uh, we um, we started playing great, and we ended up coming second. And Arnold Palmer presented us with prizes, and we got binoculars, and I've had these binoculars ever since. I'm going to say Arnold Palmer was just the nicest guy. When I played one of the holes I was playing, I'd hit this ball. It was the front nine. I hit the ball through the green, and it was very flat. There was no bunkers, and I was maybe, I'm going to say, 30 yards from the hole. And he came up to me and he's standing beside me, and he says, "What are you going to play?" And I pulled out a pitching wedge, which is, that's not a bump and run. It's not.
Right.
I should be playing bump and run because I'm Scottish and I normally do. But he says, "What are you playing?" I said, "Pitching wedge." And I looked at him and I was expecting him to say, "Well, you should be hitting maybe an 8-iron, just knock it along the ground," because there was nothing in front. I was between the bunkers and had a clean shot. And he went, "Okay." And I thought, "Oh, okay." I hit my pitching wedge to about 6 inches, and he flipped me one of his ball coins. And he says, "I guess that's a gimme." I said, "I think so."
So he was
So
a good
yeah,
guy,
I
though,
would
huh?
say probably my third might be Arnold Palmer, to be honest.
Sounds like a good foursome. Sounds like a
Yeah.
good foursome. So I love the game of golf because why do you love the game of golf?
I just love the game of golf for the history, for the camaraderie, for the all the type of people that play golf. There's something special about them. It's the most wonderful industry to be involved in. I've never met people like the golf people. It's just fantastic. It brings people together. When you go out on a golf course with someone you've never met, you get to know their character after a round of golf. And if you're ever going to employ someone, take them out for a round of golf. And just being in the golf course and seeing these wonderful views. I remember when I was at Hilton Park, my first membership, would be on the 10th tee, and we'd be teeing off, and they'd be teeing off, and I'm looking the opposite direction. I'm looking at the views, looking back up the ninth, and they're going, "Hey, you're on the tee," and I'm going, "All right, okay." But I just all my memories of golf have been with my friends, and the most amazing times I've had, and just wonderful. One of my golf buddies is Don Felder from the Eagles. We played in celebrity pro-ams and stuff like that. And I used to play in the Kraft Nabisco with all the famous players. I got the chance to play in the European Tour pro-ams. And one time I was in Morocco at the European Tour Pro-Am, and the tournament director decided he was going to take me onto the driving range. And I'm going, no, I'm not going to the driving range, because they don't allow pros in the driving range in the men's tour, right? Even if in the Pro-Am, you just don't see the amateurs on the range. And so he grabbed my bag and he walked me into the middle of the range like he's my caddy. And I'm like really embarrassed because there's big crowds of people watching all these famous players playing. He stuck me in the middle of the range next to Sevi. And on the left side was Jesper Parnevik and all the Swedes. And Sevi turned round and he looked at me and he nodded. That was it. That was all I got. I'm not going to tell you what I did next because it was mighty embarrassing. I actually hit the ball off the hosel and it went straight up the line past Sevi. And he never looked round.
That would be intimidating, hitting golf balls between those
Oh,
guys.
it took me a while. It took me a couple of shots to get anything looking good, and I look back and watching all the crowds looking. Who is this guy? What is this guy?
Should we ask him for his autograph?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Of course, Sevi signed all my Ryder Cup prints, so I kind of knew who he was. He knew who I was. We weren't friends, but he would say hello.
So, when was the first time you were paid for one of your paintings?
Oh, golf painting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
or any painting, any
Well, I
painting.
started in 1986 and I was doing golf paintings in 1986. My first painting was a little painting of a farmyard for a farmer, and it had some of his chickens in the foreground. and I tell you, my dad said to me one time, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, Dad, I'm going to do a painting of a golf course." And he said to me, "What's a painting of a golf course?" I said, "I don't know." I was doing it for the right reasons. And my sister was a teacher at St. Leonard's Girls' School in St. Andrews, and I used to go up there all the time. And I said to my dad, "I'm going to do this painting of St. Andrews." And again, he said, "What's that?" So I did this painting of St. Andrews, and it was a view of the 17th and with the town behind. And for me, at that time, I was thinking the golf and the town, it's a great idea. 1986. No one else doing this type of thing in 1986. So my dad says, "That's turned out really well. It's fantastic. I'm going to take it." And he was friends with Michael Benalek, now Sir Michael Benalek, and since passed. And he took it up to Michael. Michael said, "Oh, that's a great painting. Your first." Well, you didn't say your first. That's a great painting. What are you going to do with it? And my dad says, "Well, we're thinking we might do prints." And Sir Michael Benalek said, "That's a great idea." And in 1986, we did our first prints, and this is naughty. I signed them, and my dad numbered them. It's not meant to be like I meant to sign and number them, but our first edition, I signed it and I passed it to my dad. He numbered it. We're doing it like that. So I said, "I've got a friend who's got a gallery in Glasgow, Scotland, and I'm going to ask her if she'd like to buy some of my prints." So I called her up, and she said, I said to her, "Look, I've got some prints. Would you be interested in selling them?" And she said, "Well, what are they?" I said, "Well, the prints of golf prints." She said, "What's a golf print?" I said, "I don't know." That was twice I had that. So she said, "I'll bring them in, let me see them." So I took them in, and she was like, "Okay, well, it's a golf print. I don't really know what to do with it, but I tell you what, I'll buy two." So she bought two, and before the end of that week, she called me up. She said, "I've sold two golf prints." She said, "Can I buy some more?" So that was when the business started, and it perpetuated itself. And then I sold my first golf painting to a gentleman who was a famous yachtsman, and he bought my first golf painting, but he was also a great amateur player. Uh, uh, John Mills was his name. And he bought my first golf painting, and then he bought my second one of Glen Eagles. So I did for me, it was the big four in Scotland. So I did St Andrews, I did Glen Eagles, I did Muirfield, and I did Turnberry. Now, there's a lot of other great courses, but these for me were the four that I kind of knew and had maybe some form of relationship. And then in 1986, that was my first golf painting, and it was bought by a private collector. And since then, the print sales perpetuated, and we're able to afford the next print run, and then the next print run, and it started. And I didn't know anyone else that was doing anything like I was doing. There was no such thing in the market as golf paintings and prints. Well, there'd been great golf paintings in the R&A and the old golfers and that type of thing. There'd never been a landscape view and prints. And I started that business, and in 1991, I became artist for the Ryder Cup. Actually, in 89, I did the painting of Christy O'Connor playing the famous 2-iron shot in the Ryder Cup. And then that was auctioned, and the first big price I had for my painting was £11,000. In a charity auction. It was bought by Chris de Burgh, the singer who did the song Lady in Red. I remember that. And Chris said to me, he said, "Oh," he said, "I was there when Christy played the shot." And he said, "I told him to
Wow.
hit a 2-iron." And went, "Yeah, right, Chris. Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then I met Tony Jacklin years later, and I said to Tony, "Chris de Burgh claims he was there and said, play a 2-iron." He said, "That's bullshit." He said, "That's not true." He said, there was no one next to Christie. There was just me. And before he went up the ball, I said, put a smooth swing on it. So in Chris de Burgh's mind, he said, play a 2-iron. So he bought the painting and then gave it to Christie as a gift. And Christie was in tears. He went up on the stage, and Chris de Burgh presented the painting of him playing the shot to the 18th, and he gave it to Christie, and Christie was in tears. It was an emotional moment. Everyone stood up and clapped. And that was my
Nice.
first big painting sale, even though it was a charity auction. And then it went on from there.
So over all these years, what's been your top selling painting that created the
Swoken Bridge
most?
St Andrews, that was an easy question.
Yeah.
Swoken Bridge St Andrews, I never, there'd been photographs done of the bridge in the past, but then I created this print with the Swoken Bridge. In fact, I'm going to show you one of the very first prints I did of St Andrews.
Okay.
I've got it right here in front of me. I don't know if this will come up very well on the screen, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that was one
Yeah.
of my
Beautiful.
early images of the bridge, and I think that was 1988. We did that one, and we sold this round the world. We were selling our prints laterally in the mid 90s in 32 countries.
Wow.
I had an agent in Japan, Australia, Indonesia, 32 countries, which was amazing. And we were selling these around the world. So the bridge became really famous, and everyone, I guess, looking at that painting and had it on the wall, that was an indirect marketing for golf in Scotland.
Right. Right.
Um, I'm not saying I made the bridge famous because I didn't, but in terms of people being aware and thinking maybe we'll go and visit, if you hang that in
Right.
your
30.
friend comes into your office, the picture, we should go
Right.
there next year. So it's
Right.
it was
30,
very much
32
like that.
countries. 32 countries. It was a good marketing tool.
Yeah, well, I never visualized this was ever going to happen, but it did. And what you've got to believe is I started painting golf courses from a love of golf for no other reason. I didn't know if I was going to sell anything.
Right.
And,
Right. Right.
but I was very fortunate. Now I've been, excuse me, I've been doing this business for 36 years and absolutely love it. And to me, I haven't worked a day in my life.
So who taught you how to paint, or were you
Ah,
self-taught?
that's a very interesting question. So when I was at school, I went around to various classes to see which class I would be in, whether because we specialise when you're at school in Scotland, you've got to choose a subject, whether it's going to be maths, chemistry, physics, or art. And I knew where I was going to go, but I went into the maths class and I looked at all the people way too intelligent. Went into physics class, all a bunch of boffins in there. I went into the chemistry class. They're all crazy people in there, So, excuse me, this phone is dinging. I'll see if I can silence it. There we go. And I went into the art class, and it was full of girls. So I'm going to go into that class, obviously.
End of the story.
I'd always planned to go into art, and then a couple of years later, the teacher, who was a great mentor of mine in art class. At that time, I would also go to art school. I go on Saturdays to art school in Glasgow. So I used to go there regular every weekend to the art school. And then I got the art prize at O level, which was the only prize I ever won in my life because I wasn't very good at anything. I could English, chemistry, all that stuff, not very good. But art, felt I was better at, and I won the art prize. And then that teacher then became deputy principal of the school, or we call him deputy rector. And they brought in another art guy, and he was straight out of art school. And then between me winning the art prize and the hires, which is senior year, and the prelims, he failed me, gave me 49%.
Really?
So from being best in the class to being first in the class within 6 months, I thought that was fairly impossible. But and then nothing had changed. Just I guess the characters or didn't like that. And it's just such a shame at school if you run into a teacher that you conflict with, or your character's not the same or something. And
Wow.
the only subject I was ever good at school was art, and I'd just been failed in my higher prelim, and I was like
Wow.
devastated.
Wow.
So I produced a portfolio to get to art school, because you can't just apply for art school. You got to show them portfolios. I had a portfolio with a number of pieces of artwork, and I send it to Glasgow and I send it to Edinburgh. On the basis of my portfolio, I get accepted for both Edinburgh and Glasgow, which at that time was quite unusual. But then this teacher, I did the exam and I got an A.
Right. So
I
he
passed with an A, but this guy had failed me in my prelim. So, I decided not to go to art school because of him. So I didn't.
really,
Hmm.
wow.
And my father had and the reason was always the art. My father had an art gallery amongst one of his half a dozen businesses. And I used to go in that art gallery. I used to buy and sell paintings when I was at school. So I was a sort of mini fine art dealer. And I'd go with them to the auctions, we'd buy paintings, put them in the gallery and stuff like that. So I've always been involved in art. My father used to show me the art book and he'd cover up the name of the artist and say, who's that artist? I'd say, it looks like an Albrecht Dürer, but it's probably Elsheimer. And he'd go, correct. So it was like, kind of knew a wee bit about it. I started to learn a lot about art and about the colorists and the modern art. And I think one of the things that I was always good at, more so than art, was being able to look at a painting and tell you if it was good or not. If it was modern art or old art, I could look at it and say if that's a good painting or not. And that was the thing that I thought I was best at, to be
That's a
honest.
skill. That's a skill
And
for sure.
for the next couple of years, I was a fine art dealer, but a fine art dealer with no money because I'm just really out of school. Didn't really work. I'd go to the auctions and buy paintings, and my father helped me out, to be honest. So that's why I was able to keep going. I did that for a few years, and then I did my first painting in 1986.
Where's that art teacher today that gave you the 49?
Well, so this is not being vindictive, but it's sort of being vindictive. I was so upset about that. You've no idea what it does to a young man at school when it's his only
Right,
thing
it's
to do
terrible.
that. So years later, I started painting my golf pictures. We're maybe 1990, and I'm starting to do really well. And I've got pieces in a little piece in the BBC News, pieces in the local newspapers, and start to become quite well known. I'm not going to say famous, just well known. And my dad is standing in the paper shop in Balfron where my old school was, and there's a bunch of people waiting in the queue to get their papers. And then two in front of him were these two ladies talking. And one said, "Oh yes, that Graeme Baxter's doing very well." And the other lady says, "Yes, my husband taught him everything he knows." And that was the wife of the guy who failed me. So, on the back of that, I decided it was time to present my old art teacher, and I did it in the Stirling Observer, a big article, 2-page article, photographs, everything. They wanted to do a piece on me anyway, and I wanted to bring my art teacher along to my studio. They came and photographed it, presented him with one of my paintings, and said, "This is the gentleman, the artist, the art teacher that taught me everything I knew, never mentioned the other guy." And that was, he would have seen that, and everyone would have seen that. And Mr. Thompson, Alec Thompson, who since passed away, was absolutely beside himself. He's so excited that I'd done so well because he was my mentor, and I
Right.
gave one of my pieces, and oh, it was an amazing day.
Now, do you have any people that you teach art to today?
No, I don't teach art to anyone.
No.
People ask me how do you paint. I tell them how you paint. You mix your colors many times, and you clean your brushes every time, and you clean your palette and start again. That's it.
It's
No,
easy for
I
you to
don't.
say.
I don't teach anyone. I have been commissioned to do various other pieces. I was commissioned by the Queen. I think I don't know if you know that or not.
No,
I
no.
was commissioned by the Queen to do a portrait of His Royal Highness Prince Charles at the time, and I did the portrait. I'm going to show you that if I can. Um, and she wanted to give him it as a surprise. Now, the Queen owned Windsor Park, and in Windsor Park was the polo grounds, Guards Polo Grounds, and the Queen asked me to do the special painting.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was to be a surprise, but the prince's equerry, which is like secretary, said he's not going to unveil any more artwork unless he sees it first. Well, okay, so we sent him the image, and the equerry had showed it to Prince Charles at the time, and yes, no problem, delighted to do the unveiling. So we did the unveiling in Guards Polo Club. I'm going to say 12 years ago, around about that. I can't remember the date, and he came in. My guest was David Blake Thomas, who was the chairman of Craft Nabisco Championship, and he's always sits in the top table. He wasn't allowed in the royal box for the unveiling. He was put outside. He had to watch through the window. It was funny. And so His Royal Highness Prince Charles came in, and there's a squad of them, Camilla, and there was about 10 of them, eight of them in total. And so traditionally you bow, and then you keep your hands behind your back until he puts his hand out to shake your hand. So I did that. My opening statement to His Royal Highness was, "It's a real honor to have an artist as fine as yourself unveil my painting," with a big smirk in my face. And he says, "Well, you're putting me under a bit of pressure there, aren't you?" And he laughed, and they all laughed behind. It was hilarious. And he is an artist. He paints watercolors, and he's very good. And
Okay.
our king now, yeah. So I've had unveilings twice with only mentioning once Prince Andrew, and I've had an unveiling with Prince Edward, and then on the back of that, I got commissioned to paint a couple of horse paintings by Bob Baffert, who's the
The
world's
trainer.
greatest racehorse trainer, and
Yeah.
he won the Triple Crown with American Pharoah, so I was asked to do a painting of American Pharoah and a second painting with him and American Pharoah. And then 2 years later, he won the second Triple Crown. And I did a painting of Justify and him and Justify. And I turned up at his house near LA, at Bob's house, because he wanted to do a private unveiling in his house. A great family there. And Bob's standing at the door with he's leaning against his doorway. His wife Jill's outside helping me carry in the paintings. And he said to me, he said, "I bet you never thought you'd see me this soon." Who wins two Triple Crowns, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, it's great. And then I painted yachts. When I started in 1986, I tried a couple of yacht paintings, and I contacted the Royal Society of Marine Artists in London. I said, "I'd like to enter two paintings into the Royal Society of Marine Artists exhibition." And he said, "Dear boy, this is a Royal Society of Marine Artists. You've very little chance. How long have you been painting? 1 year. Very little chance." I got both of them into the Royal Society of Marine Artists on my
Wow.
first go in 1986.
So you're
So,
not just a golf artist.
oh,
You
99% golf artist, because
right.
this is the passion I have for golf and art, and I combine the two, and that's what it's all about.
So who's your favorite artist?
I can tell you that quite clearly. Obviously, you think I'm going to say Leonardo, Michelangelo. My favorite artist of all time is an early Victorian called Sir Joseph Noel Paton, and he painted fairies, which is a bit strange. But he also painted Shakespearean Midsummer Night's Dream, and there's original paintings in famous galleries around the world. And I think he's one of the finest artists that ever lived.
Now, why do you think that?
You've never seen anything like it. If you actually had a close-up look at his paintings, he's got Oberon and Titania and Midsummer Night's Dream and Puck and all this thing. And down in the grass, there's little elves with little water drops falling. He did all this without photography.
Wow. Wow.
Honestly, you've never seen the quality of this artist. Very
Wow.
totally traditional, and of course, you can't be graphic in these days, but totally traditional. And I still never seen an artist as good as him
Wow.
in terms of traditional art. I mean, you can see the realism today. The realism to me is almost becomes graphic. His paintings were never graphic.
Right.
And graphic art to me is buy a photograph.
You
If
know,
you want a painting, buy
I,
a photograph.
I'm definitely not an artsy type person, but on my TV the other day, there was, and I have like an 85-inch TV.
Oh, wow.
There was Monet's works coming up on my TV. It was unbelievable. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable.
The French Impressionists, people would say, well, you clearly love the traditional art. I love all art. And, Monet's beautiful, beautiful colors, and Pissarro and even I'm not a fan of Picasso, but I love, his early work is incredible. All these French impressionists, you think, well, they can't really paint. You want to see their early work where they could draw. They're absolutely magnificent, real
Right, right.
artists. And what they created was their own revolution of art, and God bless them for that. Uh,
So this has been great. I don't know what else to ask you now, Graham, but it's obvious that you love your craft. It's really obvious.
yeah,
Uh, I
I
see you
think
have a
I
couple
think
guitars
Leo,
in the background there.
one
Go ahead.
question, Leo, was when are you planning to retire? And my answer to that is I'm never going to retire because
Right,
I've never worked doing all these paintings. I just love it. I sit here all day and paint. It's incredible. I just love it that I still have this passion for it. And I often wondered, maybe in 10 years' time would I stop because, I don't need to be painting. And no, no, I'm recording golf history for the golf clubs.
right.
These golf clubs have got the painting that I do. They put that painting in their golf club as a record of golf history. And we're custodians of the golf industry right now, and then there'll be new custodians in years to come. They're going to look at that painting and go, my God, we removed these trees. And we changed the bunkers. Do you remember
Right.
when it was like that? So in a couple of 100 years' time, that painting will still be at the club. That clubhouse will have changed 3 or 4 times, but there's your piece of history.
Right.
And for that, I feel very honored to have had the chance to record golf history.
Yeah, your answer. I study writers a lot, and they feel the same way you do. Why they want to retire? They love writing. They love sitting
Yeah,
down in their desk every day and writing.
yeah, exactly.
So I see the couple guitars in the background. Tell us
Ah,
about those.
oh, I had a band when I was at school. We had a sort of rock band. We were absolutely awful. I was a terrible guitar player. Our drummer was terrible. Our bass player had a triangular speaker that could only stand up if it was in a corner. Our keyboard player made his own keyboards. He latterly became a guided nuclear missile scientist. Our band were awful, and I've got a lot of buddies that are musicians, like Roy Hay, who's a guitar player, and Don Felder from the Eagles and stuff like that. We had our 30th anniversary. My wife and I had our 30th anniversary, and she bought me that guitar, which is I've got a Gibson Les Paul there, and I've got a number of other guitars, and I love fiddling around, playing my
Right.
music. I think when I show my videos, Roy Hay from Culture Club did the music for my videos when I show the videos start to finish. And he said the music is like Titanic meets Braveheart, which is perfect. But I love playing my guitar, maybe play it for half an hour and then put it away again for a few days and then pick it up again and just play along with music. I love it. I think the music and the art are very similar in a way, and I like to combine them when I do my videos.
So I was listening to an interview today. They were interviewing Larry King,
Oh, yeah.
and they asked him what, because he's interviewed everybody, all the
Yes, yeah.
all successful, famous people. I think he was in business 60 years. He was an
Wow.
interviewer for 60 years.
Yeah.
So they asked him, what's the one thing that all these great people had in common? And he said, passion for what they do. And it's obvious you have a strong passion for what you do.
Yeah. I think passion's the optimum word for me for sure because, I'm 36 years and I'm not going to stop.
Right, 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 right.
I've
That's
just
great. It's tremendous. I love seeing the enthusiasm.
well, it's a thrill to speak to you on today, and I'm really excited for you to for your people to see this.
So, Graham, if you had any advice for somebody starting out in the golf industry, and you're in the golf industry, what would you tell that 21-year-old?
In the golf industry, starting as what? As
Could be a painter, could be a golf pro, could be a whatever.
I
Golf
would
course
tell them they're in the best
superintendent.
industry. I would tell them they're the best industry in the world. People are wonderful. People are great. They're so kind. I would say stick with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you said, you didn't start painting for the money. You started because you loved it.
Well, I didn't know if I could make any money. I had no idea. I didn't plan it that way at all. And when I said to my gallery, I've got golf art prints, they said, "What's that?" So I didn't know if I could sell anything or not. It was purely passion and love of my two favorite pastimes, which were golf and art.
Well, Graeme, this has been great. I enjoyed spending some time with you, and I know the public's going to enjoy hearing your passion come through. And best of luck in the rest of 2023, and have a great 2024.
Leo, same to you. Really great to speak to you today.
Good luck. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.